If so, Danny McDonald with Omnia House Buyers, a sponsor of this station, would like to speak with you about your situation. Omnia House Buyers can purchase any property, including homes, multifamily properties, and mobile homes in any condition. You can learn more about Omnia House Buyers through their website, omniahousebuyers.com, or you can speak to Danny by calling.
What's up?
Do I announce the new show stuff?
Yeah, you can mention it. Okay. We have 30 seconds.
Teach. No matter how old or young you are, it's not too late to begin a career in teaching. Talk to them about joining their faculty as an apprentice teacher or by reaching out to them at careers@greatheartserving.org or visit greatheartserving.org/careers to learn more. A sponsor of KATH 910 AM.
A Life Lived Joyfully is changing to The Quest, starting on Monday, June 24th, the Feast of the Nativity of John the Baptist. Hello, this is Monsignor Charles Pope, and a lot of what you love about our show will remain the same, but I want to be offering some fresh perspective of headlines in the news, things that...
Welcome to A Life Lived Joyfully, brought to you by the Guadalupe Radio Network. Join us this hour as we explore the call to holiness and the life of virtue. Here's your host, Sarah Soto.
Hey y'all, it's good to be with you on this beautiful Monday. Well, beautiful is relative, right? I'm a Catholic wife, mom, and speaker. For more information or to contact me, you can visit my website at sarahsotospeaks.com. Listen, folks, we are not in the eye of Tropical Storm Alberto, but we're on the tail end, which got us a lot of rain, which we needed. So here in South Texas, it doesn't rain super often. And when it goes a really long time without raining, these massive cracks form in the ground. And they are, I'll tell you what, they'll get your ankle. They'll take it out. I don't know anybody personally whose ankle's been taken out by the crack in the ground. My husband, we're going to talk about him a lot today. And so it's going to all be very positive because he's fantastic and wonderful. So I can say he's a bit clumsy. But when it rains, those cracks in the ground, which I think are the gateway to hell. They're huge, okay? They're really, really gigantic. But when it rains, and I think we got like something like 5 or 6 inches around the area overnight, they close up. So it's really exciting. So beautiful is relative. The sun is finally out, and our annual rainfall, it feels like it's once a year, I think is over. I don't know. We're ready for the beach. We're ready to go back to the beach. Living on the beach is fantastic. If you didn't know. But I am very excited. I know that when you tell your friends, you got to listen to the show. You got to listen to the show. A Life Lived Joyfully. It's so good. Sarah Soto hosts on Mondays and Thursdays. Steve Gleason's on Wednesdays. Monsignor Charles Pope is Tuesdays and Fridays. They're all fantastic. It's such a fantastic show. I learn so much. I laugh along the way. I shed a tear or two. It's such a fantastic time. I want you to know, and I want you to know, but sometimes when you're sharing about a show you really love and you're like, I want you to, okay, well, what's it called? It's called A Life Lived Joyfully. What? A Life Lived Joyfully. How many words is that? I don't know. And so we have decided, just for the sake of you getting out the good news about our fabulous show and our fantastic hosts, a little bit easier, we're doing a relaunch, a little rebrand of A Life Lived Joyfully. We've been on the air for maybe like a year and a half, and it's been such a great journey. But come 1 week from today, is that right? Yeah, everyone. I can do math. I'm sorry, on Monday. I'm sorry, today's Thursday. In case you all heard me say Monday, look, we've been in a tropical storm. Okay, so cut me a little slack here. So today is Thursday, but this upcoming Monday, the Feast Nativity of St. John the Baptist, A Life Lived Joyfully will be relaunched and rebranded, and very, very, we're very excited. I'll kick that off with you this upcoming Monday, the 24th, June 24th. It will now be called The Quest. The Quest, a pilgrimage of faith. And I am so, so excited to go on this. Are you ready? To go on this quest with you all. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have great guests. I'm going to have the same old, what's it called? Obnoxious banter with myself that I usually do. We'll have some new things. It'll be fresh. It'll be funny. I'll still be delivering jokes, some of which will fall flat, as you faithful listeners well know. But it starts on Monday, June 24th, The Quest. If you've heard announcements or if you've heard me talk about it, I'm really excited. And I bet you are too. It's going to be fantastic. So tune in on Monday in just a few days on the Nativity of St. John on the Feast of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist. We are launching A Life Lived Joyfully, but like, I don't think on steroids is the right word. It's going to be really good. The Quest 2.0, a pilgrimage of faith. So come pilgrimage with us as we find out all the ways and all the different perspectives and all the different mediums, etc., none of which are psychic, because we're very faithful and orthodox here on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Listen, I'm super excited about what we're talking about today, y'all. This is something that today's topic is very, very, very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to talk about, I'm a Catholic woman. I'm a married Catholic woman. So that is from where I can offer my perspective, my expertise, right? I have some theological training, but my real life experience as a woman, as a Catholic woman, and in married life is what gives me the perspective and the ability to speak about Catholic women and how we can sometimes, without even realizing it, not uphold our wedding vows. And now I'm not talking about in the Big Ten ways. I'm not talking about violating one of the 10 Commandments. Okay, this is not a show, and we can certainly have a show on The Quest, the Pilgrimage of Faith, which launches on June 24th, the Feast of St. John the Baptist. It's really soon. It's really exciting. We can certainly talk about the 6th commandment, right? We can talk about how many ways, right, that we can violate the 6th commandment, which is thou shalt not commit adultery. But that's not what the meat and potatoes of the show is today. We're going to talk about the many ways, the subtle ways I think women are duped, tricked, and tempted and fall into dishonoring their vows, right? So there are a couple of different options for Catholics to use when they are married. You can't write your own vows when you're Catholic. And instead of taking a whole show, which we could do if we wanted, instead of taking a whole show to explain why you can't write your Catholic vows, I'm just going to give you a little taste of what it would be like if you did. And Jeremy is you're my best friend, and I will make you ramen noodles. You see where I'm going with this? You got to be absolutely sure. Right, it can't be a conversation. It can't be like, I promise to make you ramen noodles, and I promise to watch Kung Fu Panda, which is not a plug for Kung Fu Panda, okay? But I think it's important that we as Catholics understand that it's not like, I think I will always go on adventures with you. That's how I sound, by the way. I'm not like making fun of you. That's how I sound when I cry, and so that's 100%. That's 100% on me. I promise we'll always be Disney adults, and we'll go standard. Like it's not. It's important when we get married as Catholics, when we enter into this sacramental communion, and we are united as one, right? That we are crystal clear, baby, about what it is we are vowing. Can you imagine if like priests wrote their own vows? What? They're very it's very specific. The vow of celibacy is very specific, and the vows of marriage are very specific, and that's for a reason. It's serious. It's not it's not like a love letter. Well, it is in a way. So just one of many examples of the vows that husband and wife make on their wedding day is take you, to be, well, I'll just say it like when I got married. How about that? Maybe it'll be easier to understand. I, Sarah, take you, Michael, to be my husband. I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love you and to honor you all the days of my life. There's a lot to unpack there, folks. Let's start from the top. I take you to be my husband. See how it's not like boyfriend to occupy my time until I find someone better. See how it's not roommate or, friend, business partner. I take you to be my husband. I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad. Now, that's really key there, folks, because it's fairly easy to be faithful in good times, isn't it? It seems like when everything's, when the cash is flowing and like your health is good and everything's kind of, is this what people say? Do kids still say this? Everything's rocking and rolling, right? I sound fresh and hip. It's easy to be faithful. I think it is anyway. That's why the in bad is in there. I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad. So let's think about that for a second. When things are bad, right? When there are issues in the sacred marital act of any kind, right? I mean, struggles with infertility, struggles with impotency, struggles with, depression. Like, there are all kinds of things, right, that we could classify as in bad times, right? When there are, when you don't have any money, right? When you're getting your house foreclosed on, that's probably a bad time for, I would say, a vast majority of people. And so in those difficulties, right, in those trials, we can either be faithful to our spouse and thereby imitate Christ and his faithfulness to his bride, the church. We can be faithful, or we can listen to the temptation of the world and of the evil one and become selfish. And I would say that although I have not been married for a super long time, and I've heard this from a few people, the first few years of marriage are very difficult, right? Like my husband and I, like we didn't have like sleepovers, and like we didn't go like travel together and get hotels together and stay at a town together and stuff like that. I mean, we didn't live together before we were married, but we were two fully grown and developed adults. So we had all of our quirks and where we think shoes should go in a home and where we think stuff should go in cars and refrigerators and backyards and garages. So we merged our lives together. And it's so much more than, I'm not saying that it's difficult to figure out what goes where in a house. I mean, it's a change, right? It's an adjustment. But merging your lives together and becoming one, and then having this, like having already lived a whole life, right? Like both of us were older when we got married. And then giving up things and making sacrifices. I think the world tries to convince us that you're like relinquishing your power. Don't give in, man. Demand, like don't let your spouse take away your dreams. Like they're getting in the way of your dream career. They're getting in the way of your dream life. And there are just so many like icky reality shows where these couples get together and they're like, I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. And then they break up because the other one won't move. Like they won't move cities. Like they won't change jobs. Something as, I don't want to undermine anybody's job right now when I say this. I really don't. But like you're not going to work at your job when you die. In case nobody's ever told you that. And so clinging on for dear life to a particular place to live or a particular home or I mean, whatever it is, whatever you think you're supposed to have in causing tremendous strife and opposition in your marriage, right? Husbands or wives. And digging your heels into the ground it's not very sacrificial, is it? And there's a lot of sacrifice to be made in marriage, and it's certainly purifying. And it's certainly, if you let it, it will get you to heaven. I know, it's like God designed it that way, right? It's so weird. And so it's easy to be faithful. I think it's easy to be faithful in good times, but it's when those bad times arise that the challenge of remaining faithful to our marriage, right, to our vows, to our spouse becomes all the more difficult. And I was talking to a really, really, really holy priest recently, and he was saying, those weaknesses that you have, even the wounds that you have, right? Because like a lot of us, maybe most of us, a lot of us have childhood wounds, right? Like wounds from the family that we grew up with, wounds from growing up and being a teenager in the United States of America. I just feel like a lot of us have wounds, right? And the devil knows those wounds. And if there's a particular struggle that you have about giving up this thing or about making this kind of change or sacrificing watching football on a particular day, or like whatever it is. The devil knows your wounds, and he is going to try to, what's the word? Not take advantage. He's going to try to hurt you using those wounds. And that's why it's super important for us, not just people who are in a vocation, not just people who are married, not just people who are priests or religious. That's just why it's super important to go to confession, and to go to confession often, because confession breaks those ties. They don't have to have a hold on you. They don't have to have a vice grip around you. Your vices don't have to have a vice grip around you. And so, again, today we're talking about we're going to dig into, after a short break, how women can remain faithful to their marital vows, to their marriage vows. Obviously, I can talk about how guys can stay faithful to their marital vows, but I'm a woman, so that's what we're doing today. We're giving the perspective on how a woman, and the temptations that we sort of wrestle with as women, and the needs that we have, how we can stay faithful to our marriage vows, and how we can how in subtle ways we can violate those vows. Right? It doesn't have to be in the big, gigantic way, but in our day-to-day lives, there are ways that we can dishonor our wedding vows, and we can hurt our spouse and cause strife in our relationship. So we're going to dig deep today. I might shed a tear. Who knows? But I'm very excited to talk about this with you all. Catholic wedding vows, and how women can stay faithful to their vows and honor their husbands every single day, even when they don't even think that they could be hurting them or causing strife. I have some great stories to share with you. And remember, A Life Lived Joyfully, this upcoming Monday, June 24th, is going to now be called The Quest, a pilgrimage of faith. It's A Life Lived Joyfully 2.0, folks. Tune in. We'll be right back.
A Life Lived Joyfully is changing to The Quest, starting on Monday, June 24th, the Feast of the Nativity of John the Baptist. Hello, this is Monsignor Charles Pope, and a lot of what you love about our show will remain the same, but I want to be offering some fresh perspective of headlines in the news, things that are going on in the news that we ought to think in terms of Catholic identity. Too often we just think in worldly terms. I hope that you'll also join in the conversation with phone calls. So now join us then on the Pilgrimage of Faith, now called The Quest, starting June 24th at 4 p.m. Central and 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you for listening to the Guadalupe Radio Network and being part of the family. Families pray for each other. We would be honored if you would let us pray with you and for you. You don't even have to tell us your name. Just go to our website, grnonline.com, or call our prayer request line and leave us a message at 800-395-4008. That's 800-395-4008. We will be praying for you every day.
So the neighbor who we've spoken to, just in greeting, but who I don't believe has ever spoken back to us, out of the blue, surprised us. One day we were getting the kids in the car for Mass and asked us if we were going to Mass. I was dumbstruck for about probably 10 seconds. It was great that we had an opportunity to share about our parish and that we were Catholic. Turned out she was Catholic too, and she assumed we were because of the bumper sticker on our car.
The Guadalupe Radio Network. Radio for your soul. Welcome back to A Life Lived Joyfully on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Give us a call. The lines are open at 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424.
Hey y'all, welcome back to A Life Lived Joyfully. It's kind of sad, huh? You've been on this journey with us for the last year and a half or so, maybe almost 2 years? Maybe almost 2 years, actually. Or about 2 years-ish. It's kind of sad that today is the last time I'll be welcoming you back to A Life Lived Joyfully. I don't mean to get all emo on everybody, but starting Monday, if you're just tuning in, we are giving A Life Lived Joyfully, may she rest in peace. We're giving her a big rebrand and a relaunch. And we'll have the same great host, same great content, same lame jokes on from yours truly, but it'll be called The Quest. A pilgrimage of faith. We're going to have some cool new things, but also all the old great stuff. So if there's something about A Life Lived Joyfully you haven't dug, we're getting rid of it. It's out. But all the stuff you're like, man, I wish they did. We're doing it. Okay. So I don't know if it's your birthday, happy birthday, but this is for you. This one is for you. I'm very well. It's been a great ride. I'm not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. But join us for our relaunch on Monday, the Feast of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist, Monday, June 24th. A Life Lived Joyfully will be better, stronger, all those things, greater than ever before. It'll now be called The Quest, a Pilgrimage of Faith. It's going to be fantastic. So I'm talking about some hot button stuff today. So if you have any advice on how women can honor their marriage vows, their wedding vows, every day, each and every day, give us a call and share. I'm going to be sharing a lot of my insight, right, as a married Catholic woman on how Catholic women can uphold their wedding vows. But if you have a tip, since I've only been married for under 3 years, if you have some wisdom or some advice or something you wish you would have learned when you were younger about how Catholic women can honor their wedding vows each and every day. Little ways, obviously the big ways, like obviously, right? But the little ways in the day-to-day living. Give us a call and share. 877-757-9424. Again, that's 877-757-9424. Write it down because I'm going to say some stuff and you're probably going to want to call. 877-757-9424. Give us a call and share how Catholic married women can uphold their marriage vows in day-to-day living. Listen, folks, I got a lot of stuff to share today. And as always, I never have enough time. So let me just hop right into it. We're talking about how Catholics can't write their own wedding vows, and that's for a very good reason. But I'm gonna say them one more time for you, so that you have so that you know where I'm coming from. So if you're not Catholic, or if you've never heard the Catholic wedding vows, there are a couple of varieties. There's not many, but there's a couple you can choose from. But they're predominantly, I, Sarah, take you, Michael, to be my husband, and vice versa, right, for the groom. I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love you and to honor you all the days of my life. We unpacked a little bit before the break of what it means to promise to be faithful in good times and in bad. Just to sort of summarize, we said that obviously it's pretty easy to be faithful when things are good, money's good, communication's good, the sacred married life is good, children are good, right? But when things are bad, and there are so many different ways that they can be bad, it's more difficult to be faithful. But once more, and I'm going to say over and over and over again today, if we are faithful in those bad times, we imitate Christ, who is always faithful to his church, his bride, even in those bad times. There have been many of those. We have Lydia from Midland on the line. Miss Lydia, can you hear me?
Yes, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for calling. What you got for us today?
Well, I was married 43 years,
Oh, wow.
and I was faithful. My husband died because he was diabetic, and I wish we could have made it 50 years, but didn't make it. But in my heart, he's been gone over since 2010. So I still consider myself married, but I'm not into looking for another partner because I feel like he was enough for me for my lifetime.
Oh, I love that.
And we had children, and I love my children. I love my family. But, being married, when you take a vow in church, it's a very sacred vow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make that vow in front of God, it's a very powerful, sacred vow you make.
Yes, ma'am.
And you need to, stay faithful, because when you stay faithful to your husband, that's staying faithful to God.
Yes, ma'am.
And,
yeah, absolutely. What are some of the lessons you learned, big lessons from your marriage?
You're going to have hardships. You're going to have heartaches. You're going to have struggles. Richer for poor, better in health, better for worse, and your health. I mean, you're going to go through so many struggles in your life, but love is what got you together. And when you go to church and you pray a lot, and because God is in my life, and every time I have a problem, I will go to church and I would tell God, God, please help me. I'm really having a struggle. Please help me. And I promise you, He helped me all the time.
I believe you.
And
You sound like a very faithful woman, Miss Lydia.
Well, I tell you, love is very powerful, and it would get you through anything, everything. But you just have to work together as a husband and wife, and you need to help each other because, you know, some husbands like to cook and some husbands like to clean up. And when you do that, you grow closer together because my husband was brought up as I'm the breadwinner. That's your job. and it was hard for me to do everything, to take care of my children, to do the housekeeping, to do the cooking, to throw out the trash.
It is hard.
I mean,
yes.
I did it all by myself.
Wow.
But I didn't get angry because I have to just accept him as he was.
Oof,
but
that's
you
good
know,
advice.
there was some good days where he did help out once in a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me later on in life because my children, my sons, they knew how to wash their clothes, they knew how to cook, they knew how to take care of the kids, they knew how to help their wives. So that made me happy.
Yeah,
you know?
that's great. That's great.
You
Well,
know,
listen, I don't know if you heard me. I've only been married for 2.5 years, but I'm writing down some of the things that you're sharing with me because they're very wise. And I just want to thank you for your call, Miss Lydia, and I appreciate you listening. God bless you.
Yeah, and God bless you too. And I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
Just the husband and the wife, if they can just help each other every day, because you don't have to buy a dozen red roses. One rose would be okay.
Aww.
And the wife, you know, to appreciate each other, to love each other, and to say, because you know, when sometimes the outside can step in your life, you don't need that. You just need to stay together and pray together and celebrate your 50 years together. I know you can do it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Miss Lydia. God bless you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, folks, I think we'll cut a Life Lived Joyfully a half hour short today. I mean, she's kind of said it. She kind of said it all. I mean, that's not. I thought I had all this great stuff to share with you. No, I do. I've got lots of stuff that I want to share with you all today. But if you're just tuning in, or if you didn't catch what Miss Lydia was sharing, there are some big gems, as my son says when we take him to the aquarium. Big shark. There are some big gems here. Listen, I know it sounds. People want complicated advice. People want to overcomplicate things and make it more difficult than it is, at least in my experience. And the simplicity of what she was saying, like you might be like, oh yeah, she's you know, she's old school. Like things aren't like that anymore. Life's more complicated. And the reality of it is she said something that is absolutely essential for the joy, success, and happiness of a good, faithful Catholic marriage, and that is work together. Like, you're on the same team. Your husband is not against you. Okay? Your wife is not against you. There are some cases that they may, unless they're making a Lifetime movie, right, out of your life and your marriage. In the vast majority, I would say, of good, faithful Catholic marriages, you guys are a team. And sometimes the temptation sets in for me. I don't know about you. But the temptation sets in for me to be like against my husband. Like he doesn't understand. He doesn't want what I want. And those lies can get, if they're not brought into the light, they can burrow and rot and poison. And so the simplicity of Miss Lydia's advice for you to work together, but also, there's so many things I want to say. She said so many great things. And by the way, if you also have advice, which, let's be real, if you could top Miss Lydia's advice, I mean, maybe you should be the host on our new launch, The Quest. But give us a call and share. How can Catholic women be faithful to their vows in marriage? 877-757-9424. Again, that's 877-757-9424. I want to hear from you. What's your wisdom? What's your advice on how to have a Catholic woman can be faithful to her marriage vows in day-to-day living? Okay, not in the big obvious ways, like literally remaining faithful. 877-757-9424. You don't need to be a theologian. Don't even need to be married. How do women honor their wedding vows? Miss Lydia said something else to me that I'm just going to quote Lydia the whole rest of the show. And I'm sure you wouldn't mind. She said something that it pierced my heart. There's no other way for me to say it. It pierced my heart. She said, she was talking about how she wasn't putting her husband down. She was just saying, factually, he didn't do anything really around the house. He would every now and then, right? But she did everything around the house. And she said, so I think this is essential. She said, I didn't get angry. I just accepted him for who he was. Right? I know you women listening haven't ever loudly taken a trash bag out of a trash can and slammed a door and made it really and sighed while you were doing it. They call it a huff, I know that you've never done that, right? I think I did that yesterday. I'm not proud of it, but listen, if we could just not get angry and accept our husbands for who they are and not try to change them and tell them how to dress and tell them what to do and tell them how to drive and everything, I think we'd be overall pretty happy in marriage, don't you? I have so much to say about that. Listen, my husband's older than me. Guess what? He's had a license longer than I have. I actually would be wrong to tell him how to drive. Do I do it? Sometimes. Am I tempted to do it? All the time. But he has more experience than I do. He's been in less accidents than I have. Why am I driving from the passenger seat? More on that after a short break. Listen, on A Life Lived Joyfully, we are going, we're relaunching. It's called The Quest, a pilgrimage of faith. And we are launching that on Monday, the Nativity of St. John the Baptist on June 24th. Same great host, same awesome content, but even more fantastic stuff. That'll be this upcoming Monday. We'll be back after a short break.
This is Life News Radio. I'm Jim Anderson. Conscience rights is a serious issue, not a game, but analysis of last week's Supreme Court ruling shows how federal attorneys may have made conscience rights part of their strategy. The Supreme Court was the first federal court in this Hippocratic Physicians versus FDA case to deny standing to these physicians. When it may have appeared the FDA could lose the case on merit, the Fed attorneys changed and dropped the denial of doctors' conscience rights. The bad news is the Supreme Court had no option but to deny standing to physicians. The good news is the Supreme Court was clear last week that doctors have standing on conscience rights with abortion. Another case, possibly headed to the High Court and brought by 3 states, is still in lower courts over this same issue. This is Life News Radio.
Isn't life an awesome gift? Married couples have the power, the right, the calling to co-create an eternal life with God that will last forever. God has also designed us so that we can plan, can order our families effectively, naturally, and without the artificial means of chemicals or barriers. Register for classes in NFP, Natural Family Planning, near you, online at ccli.org or call 800-745-8252. In other stories, pro-life leaders in Maryland are seeking a murder investigation into the deaths of 2 infants. They say foul play may have involved coercion of the mother or be related to sex trafficking. With a court allowing resumption of abortion in Wisconsin, last Saturday's March for Life in Madison criticized that ruling. It essentially rewrote an old abortion law to apply only to feticide outside of medical elective abortions. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
Welcome back to A Life Lived Joyfully on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Give us a call. The lines are open at 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424.
Hey, y'all. So good to be with you on this beautiful post-tropical storm Alberto Thursday. In case you were just tuning in, I'm talking about how Catholic women can be faithful to their wedding vows in day-to-day life. The big, obvious ways. doesn't need its own show. But the little ways, I think, do. The little ways that we can uphold our wedding vows and honor our wedding vows. So just as a reminder, if you are just now tuning in, what I said to my husband, or one of the things you can say on your wedding day, or in your vows, is, because there's a couple options, right? I, Sarah, take you, Michael, to be my husband. I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love you and to honor you all the days of my life. We're talking about how it's easy to be faithful in good times, how it's more challenging in bad times, but when we are faithful in those bad times, faithful to our husbands, we are faithful to Christ. And it is in that faithfulness that the Lord transforms us, He redeems us, and He sanctifies us. He makes us holy when we're faithful, especially in those difficult times. Because like I said, it's a bit easy, right, to love those who love us. But loving our enemies is, well, it's hard. Obviously, in sickness and in health, I said earlier on the show, it's easy, right, when everybody's healthy and thriving and going on a morning run and having your protein shake era or whatever it is you do, right? And you're like getting your PRs for your squat at the gym or whatever it is that you do. But then when like a serious illness comes, or even something as like, even like somebody breaks their leg, right? And you got like 3 little people running around that are under the age of 5, and you're like pulling out all your hair because then you're really doing everything, right? Like when we decide that we can, or that we want to marry someone, when we want to enter into the sacrament of marriage, it feels all giddy and it's all exciting, and you're like, whoa, we're getting to like live together, and we're gonna get to be intimate, and we're gonna be like husband and wife, and like, Mr. and Mrs. And so you get your like, there's somebody on the internet that will bedazzle your Crocs, I guess, to wear on your wedding day. So that you get in these details, right? You got your rhinestone Crocs, you got your Mrs. robe on, you're getting your makeup done. It's this whole big, right, party, this big celebration, and it should be, right? It should be a beautiful, exciting, and reverent mass, right? It should be a beautiful ceremony. And so, all the excitement of like this new life that you're forming with your significant other, soon to be spouse. Do you think about the time that you're going to have like little people running around who depend on you every second of the day, and then the possibility, and you don't have to I don't want to give you like anxiety to be thinking about this, especially if you're preparing to get married, but like, like somebody, like I had a friend who broke both of his arms at the same time, and it's like, I'm sorry. So now I'm taking care of how many people now? So things like that, and not even just that, right? Like terminal illnesses, right? I just read this like terrible tragedy of this young man who passed away in Texas, and I think he'd been married like 2 years or a year and a half. He had a 4-month-old. He died. And it's like, I mean, you don't think about those things, right? You hope, right, that you have this long life together, and you pray for good health. And the reality is that like, if you enter into marriage, you're saying yes to all of it, right? I think young people nowadays, and hopefully not Catholics, but young people nowadays who get married just because they like don't want to be alone, which is not the reason to get married. Think of, as far as some of the people that I've had conversations with that have been divorced, that have entered into marriages and gotten divorced, they have the mentality that, well, I can always get divorced if this doesn't work out. In other words, they're not making a vow to be there through it all. They're signing up to live like husband and wife, to live like it, but to make any vows to be there no matter what, and to honor those. And so in our day-to-day lives, we can honor those vows in a lot of ways as Catholic women. Again, I'm just speaking about how Catholic women can honor their vows today, some of the particular struggles, the plight of the female. But it's really the end of the vows that I'm going to focus on for the rest of our show today. And again, this is not the only option, but it's very important. This part, you are promising, right? You're promising your future spouse in these vows, who will soon be your actual spouse, in this holy covenant, right? People call it like, we don't use the term holy matrimony enough, so I will now only be referring to it as holy matrimony going forward, so that you can see how much better it sounds, okay? So when you enter into that when you enter into holy matrimony, and you make a promise right before God to love and to honor your spouse all the days of your life. So this is this is the tricky part. There's always a tricky part here with Sarah Soto on A Life Lived Joyfully, soon to be the quest. There's always a tricky part, and I think it's important to talk about the tricky things, the difficult things, not just for the sake of like, oh, this makes me a little squeamish, I feel a little uncomfortable, I'm not living up to this. I just want you all to know, when I share the tricky things with you, I'm also sharing them with myself. We all need the reminders. We all need help. We all fall short. We're all sinners, in case nobody's told you that. Okay? All of us. All your hosts on the quest, all of us. And so when I say what I'm about to say about loving and honoring your spouse all the days of your life, as a Catholic married woman, I don't want you to be discouraged. I certainly don't want you to be offended. But I do want to be honest with you, because I love you, and I want you to honor your wedding vows. I want you to uphold them, keep your promise, and I want to help you do that because I care about you. So if you have any questions, or if you want to share some marriage advice, or if you think something I'm saying is it needs something added to it, give us a call. 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424. We're talking about how Catholic women, Catholic married women, can uphold their wedding vows in day-to-day living, how they can honor the promise that they made on their wedding day in their everyday lives. 877-757-9424. I'm going to start out with a story before we get to the trickiest part. If you are married and you have a little person, if you have a child, you're a woman, and your husband, I shared this on Morning Joy this morning, so I'm going to expand on it a bit today. It was a teaser this morning. If you are a married woman who has children, small children, and your husband is willing to run to the grocery store with said small child / children so you can wash your hair, baby, you struck gold. You struck gold. It's like a whole thing, right? So my wonderful husband offered to take our son to the grocery store. Well, I stayed home, too. I know, it sounds old-fashioned, right? I got to wash my hair. I had to stay home and wash my hair. I don't know why I'm from Boston when I wash my hair, but it feels like it. So he went to the grocery store with our son. And I stayed home, too, literally, to wash my hair. And when he came back in, through all the tropical storm rain and everything, it wasn't too bad. I didn't send them out in an unsafe environment, just so you know. When they came back, my husband had 24, open quote, absolute pink, end quote, roses. You know that they had made roses called absolute pinks? Maybe I just don't know anything. So he comes with these beautiful, beautiful roses, and of course I'm like gushing, like, oh, it's beautiful, it's so beautiful, right? And I'm so excited. And then he tells me that this I won't quote him directly, exactly what he said, but an older man passed by him when he had the roses in the cart, and he said, boy, you must have really messed up, huh, son? We're in Texas, by the way. That's how people talk to each other. And they do talk to strangers all the time. It's great. My husband says, no. I just got him just because. He's like, BS. Although he didn't use that abbreviation. I'll leave that to your imagination. He says, BS, I've been married long enough. I've been married 25 years. I know darn well that those roses aren't just because. And my husband, who's very, very kind, very sweet, was like, kind of like, okay, pal, move it along. And it's not the first time at that same grocery store that my husband has gone and gotten me flowers for just to show affection towards me, just to show me that he loves me. That someone has commented that he must have done something wrong and be trying to reconcile with me with flowers. But he buys me flowers. He doesn't buy me flowers every single day because that's crazy. Not that I wouldn't accept them, but he does buy me flowers. And you might be like, oh, you've only been married 3 years, lady. Something tells me the guy's going to keep buying me flowers. I don't know. I'm just saying. And here if you're thinking, I wish I got flowers for no reason, or my husband would never bring me flowers for no reason, or it must be nice. That's what I always used to say to people, right? My husband's like, I'm going to go do, it must be nice. So that's kind of my thing. But it must be nice. But it really, it is nice, gals. It is nice to get flowers for no reason, to be thought of, and to have romance, right? And sweetness in our marriage. That's not all that's there, folks. Because yours truly is involved. There's sometimes sarcasm, which is not great. It's the toxins, the old toxins coming through, and so it's a struggle. But here's why I think my husband brings me flowers for no reason, and how women, Catholic women, and how I try to honor my wedding vows every single day, because your wedding vows say to love you and honor you all the days of my life. It does not say to honor you when I feel like it. It doesn't say to honor you when I'm in a good mood, or you've purchased something for me, or in the following 16 days after you've bought me a new car. It doesn't say I'm going to honor you like when you're out of town and I miss you, or when you take out the trash. It says, ladies and gentlemen, specifically I'm talking to you ladies, it says, I promise to love you and to honor you all the days of my life. So every single day, ladies, married ladies, that you are alive, so all the days of your life, you have made a promise before God to honor your husband and to love him. And every single day and every single time that you fall short of doing that, which we all do all the time, you are not upholding that promise. I know it sounds harsh, but I have good news too. I have exciting news, and I have encouragement for you after a short break.
I went to church and just sat there and listened. I really didn't absorb anything. I think I just found myself believing that I didn't need God. I just had everything under control, and church was actually a burden to me. I had this sin that I carried in my heart for a long time, and I told myself for many, many years that the Lord wouldn't forgive me for this. When Father in the confessional says, your sins are forgiven, there truly is a feeling of weight lifted off. I don't care if it's 2 or 3 little sins that you're carrying, there's a feeling of I can breathe deeply again. I feel pure inside, and I'm ready to come to Mass. You can have a beautiful car, a big fancy home. If you don't have Christ in your life, there's an emptiness that's there. When you come home to the church, you're coming home to a Catholic family where people today just embrace you.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church for whatever reason, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
Hey y'all, Sarah Soto here. What a fantastic journey it's been with you on Life Lived Joyfully. Now we are giving it a totally new, how the kids say, vibe, and it's called The Quest. Beginning on the feast of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist, we'll be with you in the same time slot, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's The Quest. Join us on this pilgrimage of faith starting June 24th at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. We can't wait for you to join us.
Welcome back to A Life Lived Joyfully on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Give us a call. The lines are open at 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424.
Hey y'all, welcome back. It's your host, Sarah Soto. Is this the last time? Is this the last time I'm going to say welcome back to A Life Lived Joyfully? I think it is. May she rest in peace. Nope, that's just a show title. So on Monday, June 24th, the feast of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist. We are doing a relaunch, because we launched it before, so this is a relaunch. Renewal? That doesn't sound right. A Life Lived Joyfully is going to have the same great hosts, the same great content, but it's going to be like 2.0. It's like when, this is a really, really pointed reference, okay? So if you understand what I'm talking about, call 877-757-9424 so we can be friends. But it's like when Tommy on the Power Rangers would play a little recorder, and then that like Godzilla guy would come out of the water, and so they would like, they're obviously gonna win, right? Like dun, 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 dun. So it's like A Life Lived Joyfully, but we have the recorder now, so it's going to you're like, what? 877-757-9424 if you know what I'm talking about, because if you played Power Rangers growing up, I obviously was always Kimberly, because that's my was it a recorder? I think it was a recorder. That's so lame. But I was like, this is so cool. Look at him. He's got long hair. He's such a cool guy, and I want to be his friend. He doesn't even have sleeves on his shirt. So on Monday, June 24th, we're going to be called. You're going to be listening. We're going to be at the same exact time, same exact attitude and everything. But it'll be called The Quest. The Quest, a pilgrimage of faith. So just we'll add a couple new things. But when you tune in, it's still going to be me. It's still going to be Monsignor Pope. It's still going to be Steve Gleason. So obviously, it's going to be fantastic. But on A Life Lived Joyfully for the last 2 years, it's been a great joy to call it A Life Lived Joyfully, because, you know, stuff. But sometimes we're like, hell and brimstone, fire. So I don't know. Just The Quest is kind of a more, I'm going to stop talking about this. So when you honor your vows, when you make a promise on your wedding day to honor and love your husband all the days of your life, and when you fall short of doing that, so like let's say yesterday was a really hard day in your marriage, right? And there was a moment, or there was a conversation, or there was a time, or even like a whole day where you failed to honor your husband. You didn't honor him, right? You have not held that promise. You have not kept that promise. So you made that promise in front of God. You made that promise to your husband. And if you were behaving in a way, speaking in a way, acting in a way that dishonored your husband, you're not keeping that promise. I know it sounds harsh, but that's the reality of it. Christ is completely faithful to his bride, the church. And you're like, well, yes, that's Jesus. Okay, but we're called to imitate Jesus. And so just saying that you're human and just saying that you're a sinner is not reason to walk all over your husband and talk to him like he's a child. So I have a couple of harsh things. Maybe they sound harsh to you. Maybe it's like the wake-up call that you need. I don't know. Either way. But then I have good things and exciting things and wonderful things to share. A lot of people who are women that I know struggle with the desire to control how our husbands drive, where they put their wet towels, where the contents of their beard trim ends up. Like, we want to control stuff, right? We want to control their diet. We want to control how they mop. We want to control how they... So, like, we could be like, babe, you never help me. You don't help me. You don't help me do anything. And then they help, but then we tell them the way that they helped was wrong. That's not honoring them. It doesn't honor your husband when he goes out of his way to do whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. But when he goes out of his way to do something for you, and then you criticize him or you tell him that he did it wrong, like, I'm sorry, I'm not a husband, but if you asked for my help and I helped you and you said I did it wrong, I'm never gonna help you again. Like, I'm sorry. And I think some of us think, right, well, he's my husband. He's got to be here. He has to forgive me. He has to keep living with me. He can't just walk away. He's not my boyfriend. And it's precisely because of that we should be honoring instead of criticizing our husbands. It's precisely because he laid down his life for you and committed to you and made a promise to honor you and love you all the days of your life. It's a whole nother show. But the desire that we have where we want to control our spouses and tell them how to eat, tell them how to dress. He's not a toddler. And when I think when we can remember that our husband is not only a man who is perfectly capable of dressing himself before you walked into the room, like, and maybe he was eating hot Cheetos with lime for dinner. Okay? Maybe before you walked in he was. And oh, thank God you're here. Thank God you're here so you can make him a shake and bake dinner, right? You're saving his life. What would he be doing without you, eating hot Cheetos? He'd be fine. He's fine. Fine enough, right? We'll call it that. He doesn't need you to stand over him and tell him what he's doing wrong. and say, you need to be like this and you need to be like that, because he's a man. And I want to remind you, especially mothers of boys, which I am, mother of a boy, something that has helped me tremendously to remember to honor my husband and to love him all the days, not just Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, all the days of my life, is that when I look at my son, who is approaching 2 years old, when I look at him and I'm like, oh, look at you, little beautiful, look at you. I have to remember that my husband is also someone's son. He was also someone's teeny tiny little toddler who was like squeezed and kissed to death. And if I ever found out that someone was talking to my son like that, so I remember to speak to my husband with love, just the way I would want a woman to speak to my son with love. And that way I'll know the difference. We have Becky on the line. Miss Becky, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for calling.
I have a quote from Dietrich von Hofer, who was a Lutheran minister during World War II. He died in a concentration camp. And he has this quote to a young married couple.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "It is not your love any longer that sustains your marriage. It is from now on your marriage that sustains your love," meaning your marriage vows,
right?
Your commitment to your vows. So I love this quote. I've been married 50 years.
Oh, wow.
And I saw the truth in it, and it made me think of my neighbors, a lot of people I know in trial marriages that are just trying marriage out without the commitment. So I love this quote.
Yeah.
It is no longer love. It is not your love any longer that sustains your marriage. It is from now on your marriage that sustains your love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Becky. I sure appreciate it.
Well, goodbye, and thank you for your program.
Thank you. God bless you. Well, folks, the time has come. This is the last time I'll be saying thank you for listening to A Life Lived Joyfully here on the Guadalupe Radio Network. I'm your host, Sarah Soto. Come Monday, you'll hear, hey, y'all. Welcome to the quest, the pilgrimage of faith. I can't wait. I can't wait for our relaunch on Monday, June 24th, on the Feast of the Nativity of St. John the Baptist. Y'all, it's going to be fantastic. All the old good stuff with even more fantastic Tommy the Green/White Ranger stuff. I'm a Catholic wife, mom, and speaker. You can be the first. Call in. Maybe you'll get something. Be the first caller to the new show, and that is my honor. Maybe I'll honor you. That doesn't make any sense. So it's so good to be with you on our final A Life Lived Joyfully Thursday show. I'm a Catholic wife, mom, and speaker. For more information, you can visit my website at Sarah Soto Speaks. As always, thank you for listening, and God bless you.
Faith, hope, charity. This is the Guadalupe Radio Network.